Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Okay, we are rolling. It is Wednesday night, Gridiron Grinder time, nonetheless. I am Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. We're just a couple of dudes hanging out. I'm sipping on some whiskey. James is having some, I don't know, Diet Pepsi or something. And we're talking about what's going on in the NFL. So, this is episode 209. We are going to kick things off with Name That Stadium. Then we're going to cover the news from this past week, kind of a short week for us because we did the show Friday, whatever. Then we're going to give you guys our Week 10 power rankings and game picks. After that, we are going to close it off with our question of the week. And so, yeah, with all that being said, how's it going tonight there, James?
Oh, it's going fucking awesome. I mean, can't complain right now with the Lions being 7-1. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, they are fucking amazing. I will say this. Let's just get this out of the way. No political bullshit tonight, James. I know we had the election yesterday, people going cray cray. You could share that one, picture that you sent me because it's got Dan Campbell and it's fucking hilarious. But other than that, let's keep it focused on football tonight, my man. Not that you were going
Well,
to deviate. I'm just.
I was just gonna go onto a deep dive on the election and what that means for the NFL. But since you told me not to, I won't. I'll save that for my own personal thoughts, seeing as though
Yeah,
it probably doesn't mean shit.
maybe let's do that one offline, and if it jives with both of us, we can bring it up next week. How about that?
Nah, next week I'll have forgotten it, so I'll just put it
Yeah,
to
then
the
it's
side.
not that important anyhow. All right, so yeah, whenever you're ready, give us some name that stadium action, man.
All right, you can clearly see where I am this week. Just do that. You see where I am. First person guesses. Guess is right.
I
Extra
like that
special
you're
shout
you know
out.
you're giving them a
Bookmark.
layup. You know,
Bookmark. I give them a layup every fucking week lately, and they don't fucking play. So
yeah, this is
I
more
don't
like a
know.
slam dunk, I guess, than a layup. But yeah,
Yeah. So, anyways, last week I was Lambeau, obvious Green Bay Lions game where the Lions not decisively but beat down Green Bay, which I loved. Some some fortuitous plays bouncing the Lions' way with the
yeah, on the defensive side,
fucking who was it? Joseph, was it Joseph
Kirby
that
Joseph.
Kirby Joseph that had the pick six on a
Yep,
pass that should never have been thrown,
yep. Shame on
and
Jordan Love, but we'll take it.
but you also had the bullshit ejection and then another
Yep.
15-yard penalty for flicking off the Lambeau's crowd. Like, dude,
Yeah.
he's already out of the game. Like, why are you just giving them 30 yards? You already penalized us, and then you're gonna kick him out because oh well he could have avoided the contact. Blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. You know, it's bullshit.
No, and it was kind of a rainy, nasty weather kind of game, which I think we would think would just bode well for us because of how good we are on the ground, right? And so,
Hmm.
and even then, Goff. I'll tell you this, man. I was fucking pissed. The night before that game, there were some jackasses on NFL Network laughing about how bad golf is in outdoor games. And I thought, wow, these are the same guys that, like, the week before were talking about Goff being MVP because of how great he's been this year. I'm just like, you sons of bitches, talking out both sides your fucking mouths. You better watch
Hmm.
out doing that shit, man, because people don't forget that.
Well,
And it just,
well, to be fair, he's playing great this year, but that was the first of two outdoor games
yeah,
this year for Goff. So
yeah.
it's a fair comparison when you're playing indoors all the time versus when you're playing outdoors. I understand the comparison, but you say we've been doing fucking great on the ground. I just pulled it up, and and this is after last week or this past week's game. Anyways, but Green Bay is averaging more yards per game rushing than the Lions are.
Oh, I know. I mean, we haven't needed it because we've been very well rounded. But I'm just saying, in general, we've got two great running backs, a
Hmm.
top five offensive line, and it seems like if we need to control the tempo with the ground game, we've been able to do that, right? And so that's all I'm trying to say.
No, I know. I just
Yeah.
happened to pull up this hash because I was curious because like I know we have that run game and like fucking like the opening game of the season showed that where what was it overtime? Did we run a pass play?
Yeah, we just ran it down their throats.
Yeah, but also like our fucking Goff is just fucking ridiculous
Yeah, he's been
in his
great.
stats.
And here's the thing is, it's like kind of to the point that you're making is that I know that historically Goff has been bad in outdoor games. All I'm saying is you don't get to be like, oh, he's an MVP the one week and then laugh at him the next week. You need to either decide, are you pro Goff or not? Not what's going to give me the most, entertainment value this week. Okay, I get it. That's your job to entertain people. You're on fucking TV, but you know what? You kind of got to pick a lane and fucking stay in it, man.
No, I know. I I hear you, and it makes sense. It's just outdoors, since he hasn't been playing outdoors. I think it's fair to bring up
Yeah, and that's fine. If you're going to report it,
before
that's fine.
before this past week's game.
Yeah, report it. Don't go 180 of, oh, he's an MVP candidate to, oh my gosh, he's so bad outside. He sucks. No.
Yeah,
So,
I
but
hear you.
anyhow,
I hear you.
yeah, anyhow, enough of that. And, it's okay. How my opinion with some of these guys on NFL Network. I liked the old regime, which is like so old now that nobody even remembers them, but it is what it is. Let's keep it going, James. Nobody's going to play Name That Stadium, but it's obligatory at this point. We got it done. Let's move on and do our recap of the past week, okay?
Yeah, so the big news of the past week is we had the trade deadline on Tuesday.
Yeah, dude, there was a nice little flurry of trades, man.
So I'm there were total this year there's been 17 trades around the deadline. Closer to, because I know Cam Robinson happened last week. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So about half of them were the day before the day of trade on the at the day of the trade deadline, which one of them pissed me off that it took so fucking long to get done, because I was reading it was going to be done way before it was, but I actually absolutely love the trade, and we can start there or we can end there, because I'm assuming question of the week might be something to do.
Yeah, I mean, you can start there just by breaking down, what the trade was and whatever else. But yeah, I do want to talk about just kind of, our opinion and assessment of it in question of the week, because, being in the Detroit market, I've heard a lot of different opinions on it, and, some kind of blew my mind. So, yeah, go ahead, man.
All right, so the Lions sent a 2025 fifth round pick and a 2026 sixth round pick for Zadarius Smith and a 2026 seventh round pick. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good trade, yeah.
For a sixth rounder, Baron Browning was sent from the Broncos to the Cardinals.
Steal for the Cardinals.
The Bengals traded for Khalil Herbert, who's kind of fallen out of favor in Chicago anyways.
Yeah, they just got so many running backs there, and it's good. Cincinnati needs a running back. They just had Zach Moss get hurt, so that's a good one. Yep.
For a 2025 seventh round pick. Dallas received Jonathan Mingo and a 2025 seventh rounder for a 2025 fourth rounder from Carolina.
That one seemed like a typical Dallas move. They're, just in my opinion, kind of overpaying compared to what the rest of the market's doing with these trades. And it's not like they got like a bloodbath or anything, but a very unproven wide receiver. But that's okay,
Another trade that I absolutely love is Marshawn Lattimore was traded from the Saints with a 2025 fifth round pick for a 2025 third rounder, fourth
Yep.
rounder, and sixth rounder.
Yeah. And yeah, and I guess Dan Quinn's saying they added a real dog ass competitor.
Yeah,
Getting excited, getting the head coach excited.
we'll come back to the Saints in a little bit because there's
Sure.
other news with the Saints. Pittsburgh got Mike Williams from the Jets for a fifth rounder this year. Mm,
I
nothing
think
really to write home about. I think it's a good. I think it's a good trade for Pittsburgh,
yeah.
but and good for Mike Williams because he's kind of gone
He
into
got buried
obscurity.
in the depth chart, and part of the problem there was he was slow recovering from the knee injury from
Hmm.
last year, right? And so the first like 3-4 weeks of the season, he scarcely even played, and now they've got Devontae Adams. It drops him to like really kind of like 4 on the depth chart because if Alan Lazard's healthy, Rodgers favors him, and so I think it was a
Hmm.
good trade for Pittsburgh and a good trade for um, what's his face, the receiver. So Mike Williams. So
Yeah, and then also Pittsburgh got Preston Smith from Green Bay for a 25 seventh rounder.
yeah, that was a really good trade for them.
Yeah, trade that I kind of missed. And now comparing it, I don't like the Washington trade as much. But Baltimore got Tre'Davious White and a 27 seventh rounder from the Rams for a 2026 seventh rounder.
Yeah, it was a throwaway trade, right? Because
Yeah.
Tre'Davious White wanted out, and they granted him permission to seek a trade, and so yeah, I mean that's tough, right? Because I don't know. I think part of it is the Rams were starting to teeter totter on how much they were going to sell because it looked like their season was over. And now
Hmm.
all of a sudden, I think they've won what 3 in a row or whatever. But they already granted White the opportunity to get out. So
Yeah, and then the last one, tackle Khalil Davis was traded to San Francisco for a 2026 sixth, seventh rounder. An interesting thing I see a lot of like even if you go back to like trades that happened before the deadline, like Cam Robinson trade, the Uche trade, the Cam Akers trade, Murray Cooper trade, and the Roy Robertson Harris trade. Like if you look at a lot of trades included 26 or 27, 2026 or 2027 picks,
yep.
which I thought was interesting because it's like, well, we're not going to trade you this year's, but we'll give you next year's for them. Like it just it when you're talking seventh round pick, anyways, that's just like who the fuck cares if you give a 25 seventh rounder versus a 27 seventh rounder?
No, dude. I mean they're just at this point they're just giving away guys basically, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
and like two years from now, like that they might even forget. Oh yeah, we got the 27 seventh round pick from fucking.
and honestly, I will say this. To some degree, I like it. To some degree, I don't. And, we'll talk a little bit about it when we get to the question of the week about maybe some of the parts that I don't like about it. But, I do like the fluidity with the teams and the players with trades right now because I think
Mhm.
it makes it makes it easier to address your needs, fill your holes, and do things. Whereas maybe in past years, it seemed like it was so goddamn hard to pull off a trade without like way over fucking paying to do it.
So here's the thing I read, and I want to say it was the first time since 2012 that by the trade deadline, no team has traded
Oh,
away their first round pick.
I know what you're talking about. First time since 2002.
2002.
Yeah,
Shit, that's even fucking more
yeah. Pretty
absurd.
wild, man. Pretty wild.
I had the 2 right. I just when I was saying it, I assumed it had to have been 12 because there's no way that. But
Yeah, no, 20 something years ago, dude.
Jesus Christ.
All right, what else you got for us, bud?
Uh, that was it in trade wise. Interesting article, and it's not really news because it's an old ass fucking trade. But I was reading this. Oh, I forgot about a couple things. But I was reading this article earlier today about how you remember how Carolina traded Brian Burns to the Giants?
Yes.
Did you know that that trade started off as a joke between friends?
No, I didn't know that.
So apparently on one of the episodes of like Hard Knocks or whatever, they had the conversation. And so and it was joking where because what's it? So it was at the Senior Bowl. They were watching Senior Bowl practice. Um, Joe Shane was standing on the field with Dan Morgan, the president of football operations, whatever for Carolina Panthers, and Brandon Beane was there too. Apparently, they're friends from when they were in Buffalo, all in Buffalo together, and you know they've stayed in touch and they go on vacation, blah 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 blah, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
So Morgan was joking with Bean and Shane on if they wanted to trade up for the Giants number 6 overall pick. And then somebody and then Morgan had said again said to or no Morgan had said to Shane, you want to give us two first round picks for Brian Burns, just like kind of like
Yeah.
joking. And then he said,
Yes, I do.
so Shane's like, ooh, no, I mean yes, but or a first round and something. And Shane said, you're heading in the right direction. And then apparently that's how the entire talks on the trade fucking happened.
And that's cool. I just wish that I could have that kind of lifestyle where like you and me have this power over football teams and players and we can just have fun and be like, fucking, you know what, James? Let's just go out and have a whiskey and fucking, just joke around about trades and then I don't know, 17 whiskeys deep, we're like, holy shit, we got the perfect fucking trade. Let's do it.
Well, we do that, but we don't actually have the power to
Yeah,
fucking enact it.
yeah. And
All
most
right.
of the time nobody listens. Otherwise, Brandon Staley would have been fired after like 3 games.
Yeah,
So yeah.
long ass time ago. So that's my lighthearted moment. You had some serious moves. What's his face? Dennis Allen was fired by the Saints. It's kind of about time.
Yeah, I like
Um,
Dennis Allen as like a defensive coordinator, but he just hasn't been getting it done as a head coach, man. It's not clicking. And I do believe that the post Sean Payton salary cap issues did him no favors whatsoever. But even when you look at the team this year, they do have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, and they came out of the gate hot and just fell flat, man. And so, I know injuries, dude, injuries, it's tough, but man, it's just every year you can't keep giving this guy a free pass.
well, he's only been there for like 2 years, 3 years.
Yes, I think this is year 3, right? And so,
Is it? Is it year 3? Yeah, because they traded for, let's see, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, so it was year 3. Because it was kind of like they traded for Carr
yeah,
and after 22, and Allen was already there. But speaking of coaching moves,
Yes.
the Raiders have fired everybody but the head coach. And
I heard they fired the offensive coordinator, but I didn't hear about other people.
yeah, so I want to they not everybody but the head coach. Like they
Sure. Okay, yeah, multiple firings. I saw they, yep, looks like they hired North Turner
they
as
fired
a
three
senior
coach
advisor,
three coaches. They fired offensive coordinator Getzey, offensive
offensive
line
line
coach
coach.
James Craig, and quarterbacks coach Rick Scangarello. But what I'm hearing about Norv Turner is, yeah, they hired him as a special assistant or something like that, but they hired him to work with that offense and run the offense.
Okay.
Sorry, special advisor. And that's what I read with hiring Turner is like their intent is for him to take over the offense.
Hmm. Okay. So, man, the Dak Prescott thing.
Yeah.
We'll just touch on that for a second because I don't know how much else there is
Oh.
in the news, but apparently, like part of his hamstring fucking ripped from the bone, man, and they're saying that this could end up being like a much more severe injury than what was originally thought. Cooper Rush, Central Michigan fired up, is in line to start until they figure out what's going on with Dak. I wouldn't expect him to go chaining off some wins like he did, whatever it was a year or two ago when Dan Quinn was running that defense and they were just a fucking phenomenal team. But um, you know, worth pointing out, man, fucking, whew, it sounded kind of fucking gruesome to be honest when they said it was ripping from the bone.
Yeah, so and like I just like the fucking headline that I clicked on to open it, and as you were saying that I was seeing it because like I kind of missed part of the game and all of a sudden I looked and fucking
Cooper
Cooper Rush
Rush.
was playing. I was like, what the fuck happened? Did they bench Dak? I didn't know what happened. But so the headline I clicked on, part of Dak's hammy pulled off the bone, source says. I was like, ugh.
Yeah,
So he had what's called a partial avulsion of his right hamstring. So it pulled away from the bone, and
yeah,
he's
that doesn't
headed
feel
for the
good.
IR.
Yeah, that does not feel good.
And Trey Lance, you're one more injury away from getting that starting job you wanted.
Oh man, I I mean it
Honestly,
feels like
I
yeah,
could see Trey Lance coming into a game and fucking lighting it up. He had
yeah,
so much potential, so much
yeah.
talent,
And
but
I was just gonna say we it feels like forever ago when we were talking about him in the preseason, and you could see the fucking insane fucking ceiling that that guy could have if
hmm
he could just get a little bit tighter with his ball security because um, he was a turnover machine, but
hmm
running the ball and just his throwing ability, wow, man. I mean, I can see why people, look at him as like, wow, but he's just got to fucking be smarter with the football.
yeah, exactly. He has to be a lot smarter with the football and maybe time and sitting there, sitting there on the bench or not even fucking dressing for games has kind of um, toned down his aggressiveness where he's being loose with the ball. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if he even starts. I think though I could see him coming in and like if the Cowboy even if the Cowboys were to like name him the starter this week, I might even I have to look at the schedule, but I might even just offhand pick the Cowboys because of him starting because everyone's gonna be like, oh, you're starting fucking Trey Lance. Oh,
Catch
we're
him
gonna
off
kick
guard.
your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, Cooper Rush, I'm sure will get the start for at least a couple games, but my thought is that they're going to lose games because the defense has been so bad this year. And we know that Cooper Rush is not the kind of quarterback that can throw him on his back, especially because they don't have a running game either. And so I think even if Cooper Rush plays well and is smart with the football, they're still going to lose games with him as the starter. And maybe they go 2, 3 games, and then they're going to say, hey, the season's fucking toast. We want to see what Trey Lance has and start finding out if we're going to get some return on that investment or not.
Yeah, and the only return on that investment is going to be a trade because you just signed Dak to a long-term deal.
It's true. That's a good point. Of course, with Dak being hurt, I don't know. I guess you got to evaluate that, but still,
But if he was showing anything in practice, you would think he would have been the backup over Cooper Rush.
You would think. You would think that. But let's not underestimate Cooper Rush, okay? Because Central Michigan likes to fire it up. So, yeah.
And the story that you will like along with me is who's the GM there? Andrew Berry didn't commit to Deshaun Watson's standing within the Browns franchise.
Oh yeah, no, they're realizing they gotta push him out. But yeah, I saw the thing that they're talking about. They'll address it at a later moment or whatever.
Yeah, so it was like really our focus with Deshaun. I would say for any player with a season-ending injury and a major injury is first and foremost, make sure that he gets healthy from the Achilles injury. Everything else we'll deal with at a later moment. That tells me he's toast.
Yeah, figure out how you can lock down Jameis for a couple more years, on a cheap backup deal, and just let him know, hey man, you're going to be a bridge when we draft a guy, and but you're going to have your shot to run the team because we got to eventually shed Watson's fucking mega fucking guaranteed deal, and until then we got to fucking do some funny things at quarterback.
So if they part ways with him after the season, they would have a $172 million dead cap hit next year and a $99 million dead cap hit in 2026. The next 2 seasons, they owe him the fully guaranteed $46 million, and if he's on the roster without cutting him, his cap hit each year is $72.9 million.
Man, I wonder if you could. I don't think you can. This isn't like the Brock Osweiler thing where they traded him with a first round pick or whatever to shed the salary cap nightmare that they had with him. I'm just thinking it's like if you're Carolina and your team sucks that bad, maybe you just say, hey, Cleveland, trade us Watson in 2 first round picks, and we'll just fucking wipe out our cap for next year and just fucking suck ass so bad that we guarantee the first round pick, or we'll guarantee have the number 1 overall pick on our own, plus 2 first round picks, and the year after we're back in the game.
Yeah, but if, and I'm not saying that Shadir Sanders is a clear cut.
No. I'm saying you don't draft the quarterback this year. I'm saying you basically just trade all your picks to the next year to maximize your value and plan on just fucking having the shittiest fucking team by far and away with Deshaun Watson as your quarterback, and just fucking burn it to the ground for a year, because you don't have the money to pay anybody else if you're going to absorb that kind of a dead cap hit or that kind of cap situation, right? So, well, you would have to cut him to take the cap hit, because the idea is that you don't want it for the next year. So, they're so fucked. They're so fucked. I don't even know what to say about it. They're so fucked.
Yeah. I don't fucking I don't know. And that's where they fucked up was they got rid of a clause that was in the original contract when they reworked the contract.
Okay.
Where like if he basically like if he's suspended or misses time for something they haven't he didn't disclose to them, that voids the contract, or they can at their option void the contract.
Yeah, they're fine.
The other one, and apparently, so he had his second concussion this season. Chris Olave. First of all, he's seeing specialists about it, but he's considering going over to the Guardian cap.
Okay.
Which I don't think. I think like the pictures I'd seen from like practice, like it looked ridiculous, but I've seen people wearing it in
Oh yeah.
games,
Yeah, I
and
just
it
saw
doesn't
Luke
look that
Gadecki
bad.
wearing it. Yeah, Luke Gadecki Monday night, Tampa Bay right tackle. He's wearing it, because they put like a sleeve over it to make it look like the
Hmm.
other helmets, right? And so you can tell it's a little bigger and it doesn't have the shine of the paint or whatever because it's a fabric, but I think they look fine, man. I wouldn't be worried at all about fucking wearing one of those, especially when you're protecting your freaking dome, dude.
Oh, I know. I didn't like the when you see it in practice, it looks absurd,
Yeah.
but when like you see it in the games or you see pictures of it, it looks absurd, but you can barely tell when you see it in the game.
Yeah, it's not bad at all in the game, especially when an offensive lineman's wearing it. You can't even tell because they're just so fucking big anyhow, right?
Yeah.
Um, but no, I think I'm pro the Guardian cap. If players are on the fence, I think they should just do it for their safety.
Yeah, like
Like fucking Tua should be fucking double Guardian cabinet. And I laugh, but I want him to be okay. I want him to keep playing.
yeah. So, and the other thing is, and I haven't seen. I assumed he would have been fined, but I haven't seen anything with the fine. First of all, you had two major ejections in two different games. You had what's his face from the Lions,
Brian
Branch.
Branch, yeah.
Brian Branch was ejected for the hit on. Oh
I don't
fuck!
even remember
Did
who
he
they
hit?
hit, but yeah.
I don't remember who he hit. Um, and then apparently after he was um, ejected, he flipped off the crowd and got another fucking penalty. Which this shit here, this one annoys the fuck out of me. NFL won't fine Tom Brady for criticism of Brian Branch ejection. I thought his rule was if you're an owner, you can't criticize the league. I thought that was the rule, and
Okay.
if you're not going to stand by the rule, then what? Why even fucking put the rule in? Like the whole thing was, oh, you can't criticize the league as an announcer, as an
Well,
owner.
but he's not criticizing the league because he did it in the game. He was criticizing the decision to eject him. He wasn't criticizing the league's, whether they're penalizing or, fining him or not.
No, 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 no. So no, no, no. They won't fine Brady for criticizing the league. As part of him being an owner, he can't criticize any player, any decision, any any penalty. He can't criticize the refs, coaches, the NFL,
Oh, well, yeah, then I mean,
all this shit. I can't hear you. So it's just like it annoys me that like I see Tom Brady's side. Was it a hit um after the play? Like I see after like the explanation of it, he did take like two or three steps um before hitting him and could have avoided. But so we asked the league Monday whether he had landed on the wrong side of the line regarding publicly criticizing game officials. And and the response was the concern would be if Tom was egregiously critical of officiating or called into question the integrity of an official or the crew. That did not occur in this instance.
Okay.
What?
So he's allowed to have an opinion. He can't just be egregious about it.
Yeah, and this egregious standard is something they just came up with.
They're adding it in now. Yeah.
They just added it in because this is the quote from this article. The standard, as reported by multiple outlets but never reduced to writing by the league, didn't use the word egregious or egregiously, and that word had never been used when others were fined for publicly criticizing game officials.
It's because it's good for business to keep Brady doing what he's doing. They don't want to rock the boat with Brady and lose him and lose the Brady ratings.
Yeah,
and I can fucking say it because I'm not under contract by these bitches.
Yeah, and one of the things like in 2006, Dan Rooney was fined for saying, quote, "Those officials should be ashamed of themselves. That last call, you don't get that kind of call." That doesn't seem very egregious, but
they should be ashamed of themselves. That's egregious, James.
And Jeff Fisher, when he was with the Titans, said, "We all saw it. Everybody saw it. I hope they hear me in New York because that was field position and we lost by a point." He was fined for that statement.
Yeah, that I don't know. That one, I don't know how you could fine him for that. The Rooney one, saying they should be ashamed of themselves or whatever, that's kind of like, okay, now you're calling them a name basically, or you're labeling it. But even then, I don't know, dude. It's fucking weak sauce, man. Weak sauce all around.
Okay, how about this one? We got to get better as a National Football League. Man, these penalties are costing people games and jobs. We got to get them correct. And I'm so pissed about it, to be quite honest with you. But that's all I'm going to say on it.
That's very nondescript. How do you penalize somebody for that?
Fine Tomlin $25,000 for that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I don't agree with it. So, we all have a little different interpretation of these things.
Or Kadarius Toney lining up offsides.
He's an idiot for doing that. So
Andy Reid said, "Very disappointed that it ended the way it did. Normally, I never use any of these as excuses, but normally I get a warning before something like that happens in a big game. It's a bit embarrassing in the National Football League for that to take place." First of all, the last sentence, it could be Kadarius Toney lining up offsides or the penalty. It's ambiguous. That costs Andy Reid $100,000.
Yeah, he's not hurting. I don't know, James. I don't know. We're getting hung up on some bullshit is what I'm thinking.
I just think that it's a double fucking standard for Brady. All I'm going to say.
Yeah.
The other ejection was Puka Nacua threw a half-hearted punch.
A half-hearted? What do you mean by that?
Oh, it was like can you see me? It was like this.
All right.
That was his punch. Like he swung his arm, and he was ejected from the Rams game after an interception. Like,
gotcha.
It was kind of like I'm smacking you, but my fist is closed, so it's you're considering it a punch, and I'm ejected.
Yeah, it's a haymaker, but probably not with the force of a haymaker.
Yeah, it was like he swung his arm in his general direction.
Yeah.
And
all right, sorry, I'm moving around a lot, but it's fucking hot in here, and things are going on, so I got to do what I got to do.
No, you're cool. It's just like I think. So I have problems, especially with like. And I had said this, I'm in Washington. I just said this last week. The officials were doing a good job letting plays play out before blowing the whistle.
Yeah.
Except for when it comes to fucking Daniel Jones. Did you see the fumble Daniel Jones had against Washington?
I did not.
So, like, he went to throw the ball, and he threw the ball like that.
Okay. So
And
the ball was coming out, but he pushed it forward. So what? They said
yeah,
it was a forward pass.
so so then like the ball's kind of bouncing around. Nobody's trying to recover the ball at first, and then like they ended up giving the ball to Washington, and it would have been a fumble recovery for a touchdown if they wouldn't have blown the fucking whistle.
Okay.
But they blew the whistle, calling it an incomplete pass, which is just what I had said.
And yeah, normally they let it play out like you're
Like
saying. Yeah.
normally, like
Lately,
all year,
normally. Yeah.
lately they've been letting it play out and then fixing it, and then they do that shit. Ultimately, they ended up awarding the ball to Washington, but still, it's like there you go, NFL. I give you compliments to something your officials do and are doing, and then you fucking go and change it.
Yep. Yep. I hear you, man. I hear
All
you.
right, I digress.
So digress it to the power rankings, my man.
All right, power rankings,
Yeah.
man.
Give me your 1 through 5, bud.
So there's not that much. There's no movement in my almost no movement in my top 10. 1 through 5, same as last week. Detroit, Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, Washington. They all won. They all
Yeah. I'm
nowhere to move.
I'm the exact same as you, except I got Kansas City at 1 and Detroit at 2.
And then 6 through 10, I only have one slot change, but I have Philadelphia, Minnesota, San Francisco, who was on a bye. Green Bay. Green Bay lost, but I left them at 9 because
Yeah.
they lost to my number one team. Like I can't, and there's shitty conditions, and yeah, like I think Green Bay is a good team. I hate saying that, but I really do wholeheartedly believe that they're a good team and they're deserving of being in the top 10. And then at number 10, I finally have finished my correction of the Atlanta Falcons. After beating Dallas, I moved them up 5 spots to number 10.
Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. For me, at 6, I've got Green Bay. Same thing. I didn't move them even though they lost. 7, I've got Philly. I bumped them up 1. 8, I've got Minnesota. I moved these guys up 5. And so this, obviously I overreacted a little bit last week, right? I creamed them because I was calling out Flores and the defense
Mm-hmm.
looked like they were discouraged and maybe quitting on them a little bit. They obviously this past week got their shit back together, and so I
But they
gotta
were
like
playing Indy. They were playing Indy. I don't know if I would have moved them as. It's
it.
your
It
board. You do
was
what you
it
want.
was it was a matter of addressing my overreaction last week because I dropped them 7 spots last week or whatever it was, and so that was too harsh. So I wanted to get them back up a little bit. 8, I've got the 9, I've got the Bengals, and then 10, I've got the Steelers who were on a bye. They didn't move. So back to you at 11, man.
11, I had the Steelers on a bye. They didn't move. 12, Tampa Bay. I moved them up 4 spots off a loss. Really, and it so fucking pisses me off. You don't go to overtime with Patrick Mahomes. You don't leave the game up to a coin flip.
It's
You
just because
have a
Todd Bowles
chance.
is a defensive minded guy.
You have a
He thought,
chance.
oh, we'll stop him and get the ball back.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing in my dumpster fire that I will say. You
Yeah,
have a chance. You score uh, right at the end of the game. I can't remember if there's 1 second, a few seconds left on the clock, or if it was this time expired. You score. You go for 2. You win the game. You don't give Patrick Mahomes a chance. Despite that, I moved Tampa Bay up four spots. They lost in overtime to my number 2 team. I thought actually they were going to win that game.
okay.
13, I have the Chargers. I moved them up 1 spot. Yeah, they beat Cleveland, but it was more the 1 spot is more of a it's really a drop for the Rams that was moved back up because
Sure.
I moved 2 teams out from ahead of them. And I said Rams, I meant Chargers. 14, I have Houston. They dropped 2 spots for losing to the Jets. I don't know if I was harsh enough on them for that loss. This week they'll probably drop further because they're playing the Lions, and we all know what's going to happen in that game. Then I have the Rams. I moved the Rams up 2 spots. They beat Seattle. I had Seattle up in the top 15, so I made the correction to get the Rams ahead of Seattle.
I got you. Makes sense. All right, so for me at 11, I've got the 49ers. They didn't play, so they didn't move. Then I've got the Falcons. I bumped them up 2 spots. I did like the win. 13, I've got the Texans. I dropped them down 6. And, the big thing with Houston, we kind of talked about it last week, it's the injuries, notably with their top 2 wide receivers being out. It's really becoming an issue for them. And we're seeing that Stroud is having a hard time getting the chemistry with these other receivers. He's even struggling with Dalton Schultz. We talked about it last week. And so that's starting to sink them. And they got to figure out something fast, man, because otherwise it's gonna get really ugly. But then at 14, I've got the Cowboys. I dropped them 2. I did not know how bad Dak's injury was when I did this. And so I could see myself dropping them more later. But for now, whatever, they go down 2. And then at 15, I've got the Buccaneers. I kept them where they were at because they lost to my top team. I can't penalize them for that. So back to you at 16, man.
Yeah, and with Houston, I looked. I made the correction with Houston a couple weeks ago, so you're catching up to me on that. That's why mine was only 2. I dropped them 7 spots.
I kind of thought that Stroud might find a way to get it done, and I just needed to give him time, right? But they're just not getting that connection, unfortunately.
All right, at 16, I have the Seahawks. Like, this is the continuation of what I said with the Rams. They lost to the Rams. They should be behind the Rams. 17, I have the Cowboys. I dropped them 7. I did not know the extent of Dak's injury.
Yeah, you were just cooking them anyhow.
I did not know. I did not even realize that Dak was injured until today when we were doing the news. But last week I had said that Dallas is kind of on my shit list right now. Like, they're not playing good football. They're not playing good defense, and like they didn't have a loss to a team that I could justify a big move on. Yeah. Like, they lost to San Francisco, who I had like right below them. They lost to the Lions, who I had way above them.
Yep.
So this one with the Atlanta, this was the correction on my board with Atlanta moving up 5 and Dallas moving down 7. 18, I have the Bengals. Nobody's going to write home about them beating the Raiders. 19, I have the Cardinals. Same thing. 20, I have the Colts. There's really nowhere for them to go down here. A lot of teams below them lost, but also they kept it close with Minnesota, and I have Minnesota in my top 10, so they kept it close. I'll give them that credit, but the team's kind of in disarray.
They are, and with the quarterback change, maybe they'll find some stability here at some point, but even defensively, they're having issues, and I hear what you're saying. All right, so for me at 16, I've got the Chargers. I moved them up 3 this week, and part of the reason that I moved them up so much is because we're seeing in recent weeks that Herbert is starting to air it out more. And, I think that that's a huge thing for this team. We know that they've been really, really good on defense. They're like the top team in the league on defense this year. They've been really good in the running game, but they have been super conservative in the passing game. Part of it because they shipped away their top 3 wide receivers, 2 wide receivers and a tight end last year. And so it's taking time for Herbert to sort of like earn, I think, Harbaugh's trust to air it out. And now that that's happening, I'm really feeling a lot more confident in what's going on with the Chargers. 17, I've got the Cardinals. It was a nice win. I just don't trust them, so I didn't move them. 18, I've got the Rams. I moved them up 2. 19, I've got the Seahawks. I dropped them down 3, just kind of a logical thing, just like you did it, just a little bit further down my board. And then at 20, I've got the Bears. I dropped them down 2 spots. The Bears, man, they've had so many things set up in their favor this year, and it feels a little bit to me like they're squandering some of their opportunities. And so I wanted to make them feel some pain on my board. I do still think that the Bears are in a very good position going into the rest of the season. Great defense, tons of weapons on offense. They gave Caleb Williams the powder puff to get settled into the NFL speed and everything else. And so the Bears, I think, can be very competitive. Now it's going to matter on really how disciplined and well coached are they. And I just don't believe it yet. And so that's why I dropped them. But back to you at 21, man.
21, I have the Browns. They lost to the Chargers. I had above them. Didn't move them. Raiders, same thing. Lost to a team above them. Didn't move them. 23, I have the Jets. I moved them up 4 spots. Probably shouldn't have, is my gut feeling on it. But I did anyways because I think it was more of a more Houston than the Jets.
It's just tough because they're so goddamn talented compared to everybody else at this point of the board, right?
Exactly. 24, I have the Bears. I dropped them 1 spot for losing to Arizona. It's more like the Bears. I've been slow on moving them up. You moved them up you got them top at 20, where I've been slow on them because I haven't seen consistency with them. I've seen a lot of failures there.
Yeah.
They're set up to win, but when it comes down to it, they're not getting the play they need out of the offense. 25, I have the Broncos. They lost to one of my top teams. Yeah, they got smoked by one of my top teams, but I didn't move them. 25, 26, 27, when we get to 26, 27, that was a healthy debate I had with myself in figuring out how to align those teams. But the Broncos ended up at 25 without a move because they lost to a team that I had in my top 3.
Yeah, really high. That makes sense. All right.
I'm sorry, I said top 3. I meant top 4.
Yeah, I got you. Close enough, my man. 21, I've got the Jets. I moved them up 2. This was more about Houston and the board necessarily than them. Otherwise, I'm kind of with you. I don't really think they deserve that much of a bump. It just, they had a lot of things in their favor this past week. 22, Denver, I dropped them 1. 23, Cleveland, I dropped them 1. These are similar things. Some of this is just the way the board shook out this week. I probably for Denver would have done something similar to what you did, where I kept them where they were at. But that's okay. You live and you learn. And then 24, the Colts. This is where I get some gridlock now. They didn't move. 25, the Saints didn't move. The board gets really kind of stuffy in this range. And so, it's hard to do things without having like kind of a bigger jagged move now, which I didn't want to do. So back to you at 26, man.
26, I have the Giants. Similarly to Denver, they lost to a team in my top 5. But the Giants, I see less hope than I see with Denver. 27, so I dropped Giants 2 spots. 27, I have the Panthers. I moved them up 4 spots. This is kind of like teams around here, a lot of teams around here lost, and except for one who beat one of my worst teams. So it's like I had to find a spot to move them up. So,
yeah.
And then it was trying to figure out where to put them, and they ended up at 27. And also, I would like to point out, you mocked me, and you mocked me.
I mocked you
last week when I said, I don't know, my gut feeling's telling me that the Panthers are going to win that game.
Oh yeah, no, you earlier in the year said you were never going to pick him again, and I would never have expected them to pull out that win, but you did it and it worked for you, and I commend you for it, James.
And then 28, I have the Jaguars, didn't move. 29, I have the Titans, even though they won, they didn't move because of who they beat New England. 30, I have the Dolphins. They lost to Buffalo, and yeah, it was close. And you could make the argument that I probably should have moved them up because they look a lot
Looking good
better
again.
with two.
They're
They're
looking
looking
alive
good again
again. Yeah.
with Tua, but
But you
I
want them to
just
win.
I kind of want them to win to make that move,
Yeah.
and
And then you can do a healthy move, but let them earn it, right?
exactly.
I'm with you, dude. So at 26, 27, 28, I've got the Jags, the Raiders, the Dolphins. They didn't move. They're in gridlock. 29, I've got the Titans. I moved them up two. And then 30, I got Carolina. I moved them up two. The last two here, I did a little dumpster fire switcherooski just because of the way that certain teams won and certain teams lost. But I'm with you at 28 with the Dolphins. I kept them where they were at, man. I wanted to move them up at least 5+ spots because you're seeing them
Hmm.
in the potential of what they were starting the year. And, they can be a playoff team. But, at this point of the season, will they make the playoffs? I don't know. But I want to see them get a win before I give them that attaboy and that solid bump on the back. So back to you for the dumpster fire, my man.
Dumpster fire 31. I have the Saints. I dropped them 5 spots. It's the Saints dropping 5 spots is part of the reason is they just look in disarray and they just fired their coach. And when you fire your coach, if it weren't for New England losing to Tennessee, New Orleans probably would have been at 32, not 31. And then 32, I have New England. And that's the other one. You score with no time remaining on the clock. Go for two. Your offense finally did something good. Go for two.
Yeah.
Seal that win. Because what happened? Fucking Tennessee ended up with a field goal in overtime, and then Drake May threw an interception.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you, man. I hear you. But yeah, much like you, I've got the Patriots as my number 32 team. And then I've got the Giants at 31 now. Honestly, it's like my bottom four are very interchangeable right now. Tennessee, Carolina, New York Giants, and New England. I mean, I feel like every week they could just be shuffling at the bottom here, depending on if any of them find a way to squeak out a win. And apparently, they're squeaking out wins against each other. So, like you just got to shuffle them around based on that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Those are the power rankings. My man, when you are ready, why don't you lead us through our game picks?
Oh, give me 1 second. I moved my ring a little bit, and like, fuck, I gotta clean that shit, because, oh my gosh. Whew.
Oh, all right. You need me to take a pause?
No, 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 no.
Oh,
Like, I had to take it off and kind of like fiddle with the inside of it, because I haven't taken it off in like 6 months, and
oh yeah. You had some man stench.
yeah, exactly. And
I
it's
gotcha.
so I got to let it air out a little bit, and then I'll put it back on. All right, so game picks. Last week you got one back on me. Um, you had 10, I had 11, and there were 2 buys, so that's out of 15. Not bad. We're doing good. You said I was at 64 and you were at 67.
You're at 64.49, James. I want to give you that 49. And I am at 68.12. We are rocking the game picks this year.
Yeah, and ironically, I don't think either of us are using models for it. We're just going on instinct.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot based on my power rankings, right? And so to
Yeah.
start the year, I was using sort of like a modified version of the Madden team ratings. And then as teams were winning and losing, and I was getting to see them with my own eyes, I was adjusting my power rankings. And I think it was like starting week 4 or week 5, I've solely been using my power rankings. And what do you know? That intuition and whatnot beats the model, at least so far. But, I think part of it too, James, is that I've been fortunate to watch a lot of football this year, right? And that helps. That's a
Hmm.
big thing is when you see these guys, you can see, oh, this team has a lot of depth here, or they've got an advantage there. And it's like the model is just so black and white and cold that you're never going to get sort of that feel for these teams and who they really are.
True,
So,
true, and that's where we're like why we would override our model.
yeah,
But anyways, we're doing fucking phenomenal so far. We got to keep it going. I made some interesting interesting picks this week. We'll get to those. First up,
sure.
we have the Thursday night game tomorrow night. We have the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. With the Bengals, there's nothing really good to say about the Bengals. And the Ravens, the Ravens are, Lamar Jackson is playing phenomenal. I'm going to be on the Ravens for the game. It'll be close because it's a division game, but I'm on the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm taking the Ravens. It's hard to not like the Ravens, right? Because you got Lamar and everything Lamar does, but Derrick Henry has been a nice little cherry on top for this team, being able to just like salt it away and ground and pound in the way that the Baltimore Ravens want to do. The thing that I think gives the Bengals a little bit of hope is that the Ravens have the 24th ranked defense this year. And in recent weeks, Joe Burrow has been on fire in the
Mm-hmm.
passing game. Him, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Mike Gesicki, they have all been connecting extremely well in recent weeks. They might be able to expose the Baltimore defense and keep this game interesting. But ultimately, Baltimore at home with the more stacked overall roster, I think, comes out on top.
All right. Then we have the Germany game of the New York Giants. Technically, the Carolina Panthers are the home team in this game. I made when I made the pick and sent it to you, I gave the edge to Carolina because them being the quote unquote home team.
Sure.
But then I realized just now that it's in it's the Germany in which what a fucking wonderful display for Germany. Let's send the battle for the number one overall pick to Germany. Neither of these teams want to win this game. The loser of this game has the inside track for the number one overall pick. Let me verify that. Because it might be if Carolina loses, they have the inside track.
Yeah, and we're the Patriots in that picture now.
So it's right now, if the season were to end today, there'd be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-way tie for the worst team in the league.
Some bottom feeders, man. Holy shit.
With,
It makes me wonder if we've ever been this far into the season and had that much dog shit at the bottom like that.
and if it weren't for the fact that those 7 teams played 9 games and the Titans and Dolphins have only played 8 games, it might be a 9-way tie.
Gotcha.
Ironically, if the Giants lose, they have the inside track for the number one pick. If the Panthers lose, they need some other teams to win, including the Saints.
Okay.
But also, you reminded me of something I said besides my gut feeling. I think what it comes down to is which team's going to fuck up the number one pick more. And I think the Giants have a better chance at fucking up the number one pick than the Panthers do. So I'm going to switch what I sent you and go with the Giants.
Okay. New York Giants. No, I mean, here's the thing: is that I mean, I have them like so dangerously close to each other on my power rankings that they're just both dog shit. It just happened to be this past week that Carolina just edged out the Giants. And so I'm trying to stay true to that, even though I don't feel good about either of these teams. They're just both god awful. Um, I think if I was going purely off my gut instead of my power rankings, I would probably pick the Giants. But I'm trying to stay true to the power rankings, and so I'm going to go with Carolina, my man.
All right. Then we have the New England Patriots at the Chicago Bears, which another one of these bottom feeder teams playing the Bears who have glimpses, and it's another gift for the Bears. The Bears win.
Yeah, the Bears have shown signs of life, right? They started off the year, winning 4 games and whatever, and surprising some fucking teams, and they're 500 right now, so they've had a little skid and just whatever, but I gotta believe the Bears are gonna pull this off. The Patriots have just been so historically bad,
Mm-hmm.
and I will say this. I do like what I'm seeing out of Drake May, minus the overtime interception, right? He does
But
get
that
the
interception really wasn't his fault. If I remember correctly, it was a deflected pass interception.
no, I think he threw it right to the guy. He overthrew his guy and there were 2 defenders there, but it doesn't matter, man. The thing is Drake May, he's been fast at getting the ball out for the most part, which has been good because their offensive line sucked, and I was worried that he was just going to get killed. Um, you know, it's just that the team around him everywhere, offense, defense, everything is just so bad. And, at least with the Bears, they've got a top 10 defense and a shitload of talent on offense. And so, like, by default, it's easy to say, I got to go Bears. Plus, they're at home. And so that's it. It's just easy. I'm going with Bears.
Blah, blah, blah. So I'm no, yeah, interesting. I'm trying to see how it ended because blah 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 blah.
Oh, I remember the play, dude. He threw it. It was a bad pick. He was kind of just throwing it up, and the defense was like very easy interception.
Okay, I I didn't wasn't watching the game in particular, so I'll just take your word for it. All right, then we have the Buffalo Bills at the Indianapolis Colts, which this could be. I'm not predicting the Colts to win this game, but I am saying that the Bills have to be on upset watch because they play Kansas City next week. And
Oh,
this could be a trap game for them.
yeah. No, I like you're good at putting trap games on notice. Yeah, and obviously the Bills, uh, you know, when it comes to playing the Chiefs, they want to get a piece of that back, right? Because they've
Yeah.
got like forever embarrassment from the playoffs a few years ago. So, um, yeah, I'm taking the Bills, but that's an interesting thing. And, um, just looking at the NFL.com stats, the Colts are 16th on offense, which I think gets better and more stabilized with Flacco now that they've committed to him. The problem is they're only 29th on defense, just a 180 from where they were a year ago. The Bills have been more stable, 11th on offense, 20th on defense. And so, despite coming out of the gate flat and, like red alert, they've been on fire. And so I'm going Buffalo, man.
All right. Then we have the Vikings at the Jaguars. Nothing to say good about the Jaguars. There's things to say good about the Jaguars. They are starting to slowly look better, but not good enough to beat the Vikings. So I'm on the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for the Jags, right? Because at 2-7, their season's basically over. There's no way they're going to win out and get into the playoffs. It's not that
Oh,
it's
that was the other thing. The other thing about the Bills, if thing with the win over Miami, and I haven't gone through the permutations of it, they could win the division before the end of November.
that would be, yeah, that'd be a nice position for them to be in, right?
Yeah, and I think it's because like if they win out, so they have two more games in November, and then two, three, four, five. I don't know how the fuck it worked, but it's they could win the division before the end of this month.
Okay.
I'll have to look that up at some point and tell you about it. But anyways, go back to Minnesota and Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, this is an easy one. You've got Minnesota, who has been like grossly overperforming this year, especially on defense. And then you have Jacksonville, who has been grossly underperforming this year, particularly on defense. And so I'm going with the Vikings just based off of that. I mean, Jacksonville can't get out of their own way.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the Broncos at the Chiefs. So this one feels like a trap game for the Chiefs
Okay.
because they
Because
just played.
they're also looking at Buffalo next week.
They're also looking at Buffalo, but they're also coming off of Baltimore, where last week Buffalo played Miami, who's a division game, but not as tough. So it feels more like a trap game. Plus, the Broncos are going to want to erase the memory of 41-10. And
Yeah, I get that, man. I get that.
so I'm going to go with the Broncos. I may lose my heart and lose my conviction of this and switch to the Chiefs, but for now I'm going to go with the Broncos.
Yeah, if you flip, I won't sweat you. That's okay. The interesting thing is that Denver beat Kansas City last year at the end of October, and so anything can happen. As they say, any given Sunday. But for me, I'm sticking with the Chiefs. They're 8-0 until they lose. They're the top team in my power rankings. And Denver is so much farther down on the board that I gotta respect what I'm doing there. So I'm going with Kansas City, man.
All right, then we have the Falcons at the Saints, and I wanted to find a way to pick the Saints or a way I could explain picking the Saints because I
Because it's at
really
home for the Saints.
well no because I
And
really
they got a new
think
coach.
exactly that's what it is. A lot of times when you have a new coach, the team rallies and they shock whoever their next opponent
That's
is.
true. Yep.
But I think they also sold off a lot of their defensive pieces, and that's concerning to me.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with the Falcons on it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm taking Atlanta here. I like that. The Kirk Cousins led Falcons. They've got the number 6 offense in the league, number 4 in passing right now. I mean, it's just impressive. And on top of that, they're 23rd in defense, which is nothing to write home about, but it's better than the Saints' 28th on defense. And so, even though it's in New Orleans, they've got a changing of the guard, maybe a little bit of shock factor. I think the Falcons, man, are kind of like rolling steadily right now, and I got to stick with those guys. So I'm going Atlanta.
All right. Then we have San Francisco at the Buccaneers. Out of so Shanahan or San Francisco under Shanahan is 4-3 coming out of the bye. The first two of the three losses were in his first 2 years there. Wait a minute. Yeah, exactly. His first 2 years there. In the last 5, they're 4-1. Their last loss out of a bye was so last year they blew out Jacksonville out of a bye. The year before they barely beat the Chargers. So their last loss was to the Colts in 2021 out of the bye. I'm going to ride that San Francisco coming out of a bye and pick San Francisco to beat Tampa Bay. Even though the last time Shanahan 49ers played San Francisco out of a bye, they lost 27-9 in Tampa Bay.
Okay.
I'm gonna ride the more current history with the better teams than the first couple of years where they were antisocial teams.
I gotcha. Yeah, and I can't knock you for taking the 49ers, even though I'm taking the Buccaneers. The 49ers, man, they're having a strange season. They're top 10 in everything. 5 on offense, 7 on defense. When you break down the offense, 9th in passing, 6th in rushing. They're just having a hard time getting it to translate to wins this year. Tampa Bay, on the other hand, they have been way overperforming on offense. They're number 4 in the league, 3 in passing, 8 in rushing. And right now, that's with their top 2 wide receivers out. Baker Mayfield's been like force feeding Cade Otton and finding ways to get things working. Their defense, 30th in the league, which, I'm still convinced a large part of that is because of injuries that have plagued them off and on most of the year. But I just, I have Tampa Bay ahead of the 49ers on my board. Tampa Bay's been fighting their asses off in every game this year. And I'm sorry, I have San Francisco higher on my board, but it's at home, and Tampa Bay's been fighting their asses off. And it's one of these things where when I have them within a few spots, I try to opt to the home team unless there's some glaring reason to go the other way. And so I'm going to go with the Buccaneers, but, I could see it going either way, to be honest.
We have a really good fucking game to round out the 1 o'clock window on Sunday. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Washington Commanders. And really this boiled down to the Commanders are at home. I think it's how Pittsburgh's been playing lately. And it's 6-2 Steelers at the 7-2 Commanders, who at the beginning of the season, who honestly thought these teams were going to be here. Both teams leading their division. I think I have them relatively close in my power rankings. I agonized over it, but I ultimately went with the Commanders because they're at home, and I trust the Commanders a little bit more than I trust the Steelers right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Actually, I'm with you in that I'm picking the Commanders. I would say the strange way of me putting it is that I trust the Steelers more because Tomlin and the discipline, and now with Russ, I think they're going to be very safe and very smart with the football. But I'm still picking Washington because I believe that they have 1 or 2 more tricks up their sleeve with Jaden Daniels running that offense and the excitement that we've seen with those guys. So I'm going to take them. I think all it's going to take is maybe 1 more flash play and gets them over the top.
And we have the Titans at the Chargers.
Yes. I mean, the Titans, their defense has been playing their asses off.
Except for against the Lions.
Well, yeah, but come on, who can, yeah, and they just don't have a quarterback, so they can't do anything on offense.
And didn't the Titans already get blown out by Harbaugh this year?
The other Harbaugh, maybe, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean they're still saying that Tennessee has the number one defense. The Chargers are number five,
How the fuck is that even possible?
but they're 32 in passing, 31 in offense. I mean, you just can't.
They're minus fucking 73 in point differential.
Yeah, you can't take Tennessee, man.
There's only three teams. Holy fucking shit. Oh my gosh. Carolina Panthers are minus 146
uh,
in point
uh,
differential.
that's so bad. It's
Holy.
amazing they have any wins at all.
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers have allowed obviously the most points in the league.
I kind of feel bad for them now.
They've allowed 50 more points than any other team in the league right now. But anyways, I digress. You know, I can't pick Tennessee. I don't trust their offense, and the Chargers offense is really coming together, and so I'm on the Chargers.
Yeah, Chargers. Blah blah blah. Let's go.
Jets at the Cardinals. I don't want to pick this game as the Cardinals, but you know, I have no hope for the Jets. And you know me, when they traded for Rodgers going into last season, I was like, oh, instant Super Bowl contender. Oh, and then he got hurt and the team fell off. He hasn't been the same. He hasn't been the same quarterback. If this was
not even close.
If this was 2 years ago, I probably still be all in on the Jets. But from what I've seen this year, there's no way I can pick the Jets to beat the Cardinals.
No, and you know, honestly, I think a big part of it when I analyze this team is that for sure, like you're saying, Rodgers is not the same Rodgers. And we know he's older and he's coming off an injury or whatever, but he is not even close to the same Rodgers. And that's the problem because they have really, really good receivers and tight ends, and he is like such a subpar quarterback this year. But the thing that makes it worse is how they've neglected the running game to try to appease Rodgers. And that's my opinion, that they're doing it to appease Rodgers because they're fucking 29th in rushing with the best offensive line they've had in years and Brees Hall and Braylon Allen. There is no reason that they should not have a fucking top 10 running offense, except that they want Rodgers to be the fucking guy, the focal point of that offense, and he is basically, as a result, single-handedly sinking their fucking season. So I'm taking the Cardinals. You know, we've talked about it all year. The Jets are immensely talented. The Cardinals are not. But the Cardinals are playing better fucking football. I'm taking the Cardinals.
Then we have the Eagles at the Cowboys. This will be the fifth game that Cooper Rush has started against the Eagles in his career with Dallas. What do you think his record is?
4-1. I mean, 3-1.
It's surprisingly it's 500. Lost one. This is lost one, lost. Oh, I take that back. It's not the fourth game he started against them. I didn't actually look at the stats before I.
Just the fourth he's played?
Fourth he's played.
Okay.
And second game he started. In games he started, he's 0-1. And I remember that game 2 years ago. 2 years ago, that was at Philadelphia.
So, man, let me pause you for a second, okay? Because I'm just looking at this, and Dallas is fucking 3-5, maybe 3-6 after this game, and it just blows me away, right? Because you know, Jerry Jones was so fucking tight on extending, you know, Dak in particular, but he was even doing it with CeeDee Lamb and whatever. And it looked like he was going to like make everybody play out their deal or blow up the team. And he
Mm-hmm.
ended up paying them. And honestly, it's like he just could not have been more wrong, right? Because if he would have let him ride it out and they just fucking played this way, he'd be drafting a fucking top quarterback this next year.
Yeah. No, I. Jerry Jones is one of the worst GMs in the
Yeah.
fucking league.
It's like he got what he wanted and it wasn't what he wanted.
Yeah. All the fucking problems with Dallas start with Jerry Jones, in my opinion.
Sorry for cutting you off. Go back, bud.
That's okay. And plus, like this last week, you you know why Zeke didn't play this last week?
I don't know. It was some disciplinary thing. What does that even mean?
He was suspended by the team for and I wanted to actually look up the reasoning because I didn't want to misquote it.
Sure.
Um but it was like for team discipline. Like I'd heard like he was like skipping meetings.
He's like, oh, this team just fucking sucks. I'm just going to skip a meeting. Yeah. Like, what are we in high school?
So as this miss or was late to several meetings in recent weeks.
Okay.
Uh,
I mean, Zeke.
So like Zeke kind of fucked up because I thought Rico Dowdell had a fairly good game in Zeke's absence,
Yeah.
and
I mean, Zeke's just not, he's not there anymore, anyhow. Zeke, here's the crazy thing, right? Is that Zeke peaked in his rookie year, and
yeah,
every year since his yards per carry went down. You know, maybe it came back up a little bit in New England last year, but it is like off the cliff this year.
no, 100%. So like my I, I'm actually overriding my gut on this.
Sure.
My gut is telling me to pick the Cowboys, but I just can't.
Yeah, it's hard to pick the Cowboys right now.
I just can't pick the Cowboys. But my gut is absolutely telling me to pick the Cowboys. I'm gonna go with the Eagles. And your interrupting me was fine because I was
Yeah, you were sorting it out in your own head.
exactly.
Well, I'm glad that I helped you there. I'm also taking Philly. The Cowboys, it's on fire, dude. You know, where there's smoke, there's fire. And, you know, now you can say, oh, the Dak injury and, you know, stick a fork in them and whatever. But they were done before Dak got hurt, dude. They
Oh
were
yeah.
done. They were done when their defense fucking, you know, when they hired Zimmer to replace Dan Quinn. They were done. They were done when their fucking offensive line started to lose pieces and deteriorate 2 years ago, and now they have no fucking running game, um, or a number two wide receiver, or you know, I mean, it just this is like the least talented Dallas team we've seen in a long time, and they don't have like the complementary piece like a Dan Quinn to coach them to be better. And so, you know, Philly is not my favorite team by any means this year, but I think they get it done in this game.
All right, then We have Sunday Night Football, the Lions at the Texans.
I'm glad that it's on Sunday night, by the way. I'm excited for that.
Well, I'm glad it's on Sunday night, because that's probably about the only time I'd be able to watch the game this week.
I am kind of bummed that Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs are out, right? Because I do want to see like the biggest powerhouse matchup we can get on the Sunday night game. And I feel a little bit bummed out that the Lions are playing them while they're hobbled, but I am still very pumped up for the Lions anytime they get a Sunday night game.
My concern is the Texans are a team that is clearly better at home than they are on the road.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared, James.
And the last time they were on primetime, so Stroud's 1-1 in primetime games, because they were just in primetime on Thursday, and Stroud's been talking about how he's embarrassed for that loss to the Jets. And how the loss to the Jets is a, quote, wake-up call.
Yeah, but, is he going to overnight all of a sudden start having chemistry with these wide receivers? And that's the thing.
Exactly, and that's the issue. He doesn't have chemistry with these wide receivers. He doesn't have his top two.
No, he's missing his top two. Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs are out. I will say this. Tank Dell did start to show some flashes last week, and that's great. But I don't know that all of a sudden Tank Dell's going to be the hero.
Exactly.
And I would have thought, it's like, look at what Baker's been doing in Tampa Bay without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. He's been leaning on Cade Otton, and it's been working. I would have thought that C.J. Stroud would have been able to lean on Dalton Schultz in that kind of a manner, and it hasn't happened, man. They're having a lot of issues in that passing game.
Yeah. If this game was in Detroit, I would have more conviction with picking the Lions simply because of the fact that Houston's different on the road, and like with the Ford Field rockin'.
Oh yeah.
But I'm still gonna go with the Lions. One thing I've seen, and that's the thing I saw this week, is people were complaining all week about the quote gold package for the Packers.
Okay.
Because
what does that mean?
So the gold package, it's like, I think it's 4 games. Because remember how the Packers used to split between Milwaukee and Green Bay?
Oh,
they play 4 games in Milwaukee, 4 games in Green Bay. When they stopped playing in Milwaukee, they continued the season ticket packages as having 4 games and 4 games. So the gold package is the old Milwaukee package. So It's those season ticket holders. And the season ticket holders from Miami sell their tickets to their opponents because they're not going to drive up to Green Bay for the game. And all three of the 4 home games in the gold package this year are divisional games.
Gotcha. So is that why there were so many Lions at that Green Bay game?
That's why there were so many Lions at the Green Bay game. Is because they bought the tickets
gold package tickets.
Yeah. But the Lions fans travel well no matter where it is. When I went to the Chargers game here, I'd say it was close. It was probably like 25%.
Yeah, that's pretty damn
Lions
good
fans.
When you consider going all the way out to the coast.
Yeah. So Lions fans travel well, and I think the Lions fans, especially with as good as they are traveling more to the games, or coming out of the woodworks for people that have left Detroit to these other cities, and Houston's the fourth largest city, so
Sure.
that's a common spot for people to go to. I think it's going to be a different home environment for CJ Stroud and the Texans, and I'm going to go with the Lions.
Yeah, obviously, I'm taking the Lions. They're my number 2 team on my board. Houston, I just dropped big time because of the injuries. I can't go against the Lions. I don't know that I'll be able to go against them at all this year. I mean, I'm just such a believer in the frickin' Dan Campbell grit. I should have worn my In Dan with Trust shirt. I'll wear it next week, but got to go Lions, man. Got to go Lions. And I think the Lions know there's like not really any margin for error, right? Because the NFC North has been so tight that they can't fucking let their guard down. They got to keep fucking grinding it out, winning
Mm-hmm.
games. And I kind of like that. As long as nobody gets hurt, I want to see them just keep fucking pushing it as hard as they can because it will make them that much better when the playoffs come.
And also, the Lions have the highest point differential of the season, and they've allowed two, three, fourth fewest points of the season.
Yeah, their defense has really come a long way.
Like the Lions are averaging 8, 148, 12, 1.5.
I mean, I will say this, okay? Obviously Hutch being out hurts, and um, the linebackers could be better. I would love to see Malcolm Rodriguez on the field more because he is a very fundamentally sound tackler and just a smart, instinctual linebacker. I think Jack Campbell leaves something to be desired. Anzalone has been as good as you could ask him to be. The secondary is a work in progress, but we knew that it would be a work in progress. The secondary is infinitely better when Brian Branch is on the field. Kirby Joseph has been a pick machine. I hope that he keeps getting his reps, but we know Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, all the guys on that secondary, there's an adjustment and they need time, and we even talked about it in the offseason. It's a high bust rate in the secondary, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's we're doing everything we can to throw pieces at the wall and see what sticks, and hopefully we get some guys. I think it's going to work. I think the defense has gotten like phenomenally better this year. It's just a matter of giving it a little bit more time to get over the hump. When you look at how good that offense is, it's hard to not fucking love the Lions right now, man.
Yeah, and the total, it's 18.5 points per game the Lions are allowing versus the 22
Yeah, 22, 23 is the league average, right?
Yeah, and 22, 23 is the league average, and like the Texans are +1 in point differential this season,
Yeah.
which tells me they're not scoring a lot of points, and they're giving up 22.33 points per game.
They do have 2 fucking stud edge guys, and so that is kind of a wild card. But they've just been struggling this year. So, let's not go crazy about it.
All right, then we're on to Monday night. Based on our schedule next week, we probably most likely will be doing the picks before Thursday, so we don't have to do next week's Thursday game. So it's the last pick of the night. Miami at the Rams.
Sure.
I didn't know who to pick in this game. I went with the Rams. I honestly don't know. I've seen a lot out of Miami, and I've seen a lot of questions out of the Rams. I've seen a lot of good out of Miami with Tua, a lot of questions out of the Rams, even with Stafford being healthy. I have concerns about both teams going into the game. I'm gonna go with the Rams simply because I have them higher on my power rankings.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. My gut is telling me that the Dolphins could and should win this game, even though it's on the road.
Hmm.
But until they get that win, and I can start like really like jolting them up the board, I've got to take the Rams, especially because the Rams, I believe, have won their last three, and you've got Cooper Cup and Puka Nakua both back in action. It's a totally different offense with those guys for Stafford to throw to. And so, man, I've not been big on the Rams this year, but I just, I guess that's why I got to take them. And
Yeah,
it's low conviction, but I'm taking them.
and you're right on. The Rams have won their last three games,
Thank you for validating that. All right, so you said we're
and
going to skip Thursday.
Miami's lost their last three too.
Yeah, and I mean, they got Tua back finally. I think that's the important thing is they got Tua back and they put up a good showing against Buffalo, which is like awfully fucking encouraging.
Hmm.
But you know, they need that W, and then I'll flip the script on Miami. So
Yeah, and we'll skip the Thursday night because I think next week's either going to be we're just going to send each other if we can.
Tuesday, or we're gonna skip it.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fine.
and I have to. I'll tell you later on Tuesday. I
Yeah,
have to still
yeah,
talk to
yeah.
somebody to
Tell me
figure it out.
later, and I mean, it's my schedule's fucking the whole thing up, so it's all right. All right, so those are the game picks, James. Are you ready for some question of the week action?
Fuck yeah! I've already been doing my research into it, assuming
Sure.
what your question of the week was going to be. I just have to find where the fuck I put it. There it is. All right,
Okay. All right.
ready.
So, yeah, and I did my best to give you a heads up today, but it was only a couple hours before the show. So, like always, I'll give you my answer on this before you fire yours off, give you a little bit more time to think about it. But basically, I just want to know, are you happy with the Zadarius Smith trade that the Lions made? And I ask that because we talked about it briefly earlier. You broke down the compensation for that trade. I think we both like it. I think it was a great deal for the Lions. You've got Zadarius Smith for basically peanuts in compensation. You're not giving up an arm and a leg in the cap this year because he's like what, less than 2 million in cap space because the Browns re-signed him in earlier in the year. And then you've got him for an optional year next year for like something like 10 million. Um, but it's a clean deal where if we don't want him, we can cut him. And so to me, it's like, oh, fuck yeah, this is the perfect fucking trade for the Lions. Um, the, the reason that I even asked the question to begin with is because in this fucking Detroit circle, there have been a lot of people pushing for a bigger splash than this. I've heard guys going nuts about, oh, we'll give up three motherfucking first rounders for Myles Garrett or two motherfucking first rounders for Max Crosby. And, you know, and I would say this, the majority of the people I've talked to have been like, blow the load for Max Crosby. He went to Eastern Michigan, bring him back home, blah, blah, blah. Fucking crazy, crazy, crazy. I love Max Crosby. I love Myles Garrett. I think they're both fucking amazing defensive ends, okay? But Brad Holmes has been a fucking ninja at drafting guys. There's no way I'm giving up multiple first round picks for pretty much anybody at this point. I could maybe get on board if you said, okay, one first round pick and maybe some like late picks or whatever to like put a little cherry on top. And that's only if we know we're going to have these guys for multiple years to pair with Hutchinson. But either way, I'm still not thrilled with that. I think Zadarius Smith, on the other hand, um, like I said, first of all, we barely got to pay anything for him this year. We've got a great option for him next year. It also keeps the pecking order intact with Hutchinson, where it's very obvious that Hutchinson's our homegrown guy. And if we keep Smith for next year, he is the complementary two, which could be a great spot for him to be in. It's been a great spot for him across from Myles Garrett in Cleveland. And so I like that a lot. And then just the last thing with it is that he's played for two of the NFC North teams already. And so he's made comments about wanting to go after those teams. It just, dude, he screams that he's a fucking Lions player, man. And so
Hmm.
I love the fucking trade. I think people are crazy to be wanting to ship off these first round picks. I get it. Hey, if you could get Crosby or Myles Garrett, that'd be fucking phenomenal, right? But, dude, I think this was the fucking perfect Lions fucking trade, my opinion. What do you think, man?
All right. I absolutely fucking love the trade. I want to I want to make that clear. I want to take the other side because you just laid out why it's a great trade.
Yeah, and you always got to go devil's advocate, I know.
But
But fuck that. It's an amazing trade. Oh!
Zadarius Smith, first of all, wanted to be on the Lions. Were there possibly better edge rushers out there that they could have picked up? Possibly. But not a player that wants to be on the Lions. So while you're not going to replace Hutch's sack total, and not replace Hutch. Hutch had, in his 5 games, he had 7.5 sacks. The rest of the defensive line this entire season has 6.5 sacks.
Yeah,
Zadarius Smith has 5 sacks so far this season.
yeah.
So,
Oh, special guest.
so it's a great, 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 great trade. Peanuts in compensation. You had said it cost like $2 million against the cap.
Not even, man, right? Because they restructured him.
It costs, according to what I'm seeing, and I have to verify this because this does not make sense. It costs the Lions apparently, and I want to check a different source, but my first source said it's costing them $605,000 against the cap.
Yeah, I believe that, right? Because we're halfway through the season and he was like 1 point something million against the cap for Cleveland because they moved a bunch of it to a signing bonus or whatever earlier in the year.
Yeah, so I want to.
And then for next year, I want to say it's like 9 or 10 million or something is what we'd be paying him if we wanted to hang on to him. Which, in my opinion,
Try again. 5.7.
yeah, I mean, and if that's it, that's even better, right? Because to have him be the number two to Hutchinson, it gives us the kind of depth on that defensive line that we have been wanting. And it gives us the flexibility to do more in the draft this year to build depth and give guys time to develop. I mean, dude, it puts us in an amazing position, honestly. I love this trade so fucking much. The only way I would have loved this trade better is if Hutchinson never got hurt. I mean, that's the
Mm-hmm.
only way it would have been better. But it's as good as it can get for me. You know,
Yeah,
I
and
I love Crosby. I mean, fucking Myles Garrett to me is like, you know, you know how I felt about Aaron Donald. I thought he was the best player in the league for a long time. Okay, Myles Garrett is just very, very slimly below where I looked at Aaron Donald. Okay, I think Myles Garrett is one of the best players of this generation, but I would not be giving up 3 first round picks for him, as some people have suggested. Sorry, that just doesn't work for me.
yeah, no, it doesn't work for me either. Um, so I looked up his option. His option has to be picked up 7 days before the start of the regular season next year.
Okay.
So that gives us time
Yeah,
to
plenty of time
decide.
to make sure he's going to work.
Yeah. Plus, he's filling the need. He's not completely filling the void left by Hutch,
But he's
but
helping big time this
he's
year.
helping big time this year. And then, like you said, next year having him for really peanuts. 6 million cap hit is nothing. It's nothing.
Yeah, and you think about how good he could be with Hutchinson drawing all the attention. And
Exactly.
Alan McNeil getting double teamed in the middle, man.
Hmm.
I think it was a great trade for him, right? I know he wants to be here, but I think for him looking out saying, hey, I'm getting into my 30s, next year I'll be 33, it it puts him in a great position to continue having strong performance because the spotlight is not going to be on him. It's going to
Hmm.
be on him this year. Yeah, it's definitely going to be on him this year. But you know what? He's going to be motivated as fuck this year.
Yeah, he's exactly. And he's also, he going into his year 33 season, like he has I'm going to stop that sentence. Anyways, um, I just, I love,
Yeah, you're digging it. You're
I
digging it.
really dig the trade. I told you that, like you were saying it was a fourth round. I would have been fine with a fourth round.
Yeah, that was the original rumor. And I thought, no, no, it's not what you told me. I read an article that said that the conversations were not just with the Lions, but with other teams, that it was a fourth rounder and that a deal was imminent. And so I thought, okay, I would have been fine with the fourth rounder because
Mhm.
when I read the article, I already looked up that he was under contract for next year. And I thought, okay, because we're getting him for this year, which is like kind of like a Super Bowl or bust kind of window this year. But then we also have the option for next year. I thought, okay, I can handle a fourth rounder. If it was a third or higher, I would have been like, ah, man, you're starting to sting. But I could have done a fourth. What we ended up getting was like obviously way better.
Yeah, and like you had said that you were reading a fourth rounder. Like I just said like I'm reading that it's going to be finalized tonight or tomorrow or tomorrow. You're like, oh, I'm reading tonight and it's a fourth rounder, and I was like,
Yeah,
and I was reading a fifth rounder,
yeah. And I was thinking,
and
well,
your
hey,
response to
it's
fifth rounder
it's
was,
it's
well,
a
that's
late
even better.
fourth rounder. I could handle it, right? Yeah,
Yeah, and then when I said I'm reading fifth rounder, he was like, well, hell, even better. And
yeah,
I love the trade, like to throw in the pick swap. What did we swap? Like seventh round picks or something,
yeah. I mean, whatever. That's
or
fair.
like a seventh for a sixth, or whatever the fuck we ended up swapping. Um, it's a fucking great trade. It's a fucking smart move. It fills a need that we have. And like his sack total, if 5 sacks would have the second most sacks on the Lions,
Yeah.
because currently the second most is only McNeil at 2.5.
Yeah, and he's a defensive tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we're both digging it, man. And like I said, I was surprised that some of the people in this circle were not happy with it. And I do juggle some of these conversations with people because in recent years you have a lot of new Lions fans, in my opinion, guys that don't truly know like the ins and outs of football and guys that didn't live through like the 0 and 16 season like I did my first year of season tickets, by the way. And it's you know when people say things like this, I'm like, guys, you're fucking getting greedy in thinking only about right now. Okay?
Hmm.
I'm 42 years old. This team's never made it to the fucking Super Bowl. I'm not worried about it right now. I want it to be long-term success. Give this team as big of a Super Bowl window as we can get because it is fucking hard to win it. And I want as many fucking chances as we can get to fucking win it. And you do that by Brad Holmesing it, by Dan Campbelling it. You don't do it by fucking blowing the fucking load and going all in right now. Because if something happens right now, like Jared Goff gets hurt next week, well, then we're fucked and we already mortgaged the future. So let's
Mm-hmm.
not do that. Let's not do that.
I 100% agree with that part.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I love it. You and me, same page. It's all good. All right, well, James, that's all I had for tonight, man. Do you have any, closing thoughts, anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, now's the
Not that I
time.
can think
So,
of.
okay.
Well, now's the time, and I can't think of anything, so I'm guessing I don't. I guess I don't know. I don't think I do. If
Yeah,
I do, we'll just start it up, and you'll have to edit it back
yeah.
in.
You call
So
me back and I'll
okay.
squeeze it in. Oh, hey, James had a closing thought. Yeah, no, okay. Well, hey, anybody who's still watching, thank you. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you haven't already, subscribe, thumbs up, like, blah 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 blah. Comment, maybe one day. Anybody knows. Blah 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 blah. James, it was a good time, man. I'll catch you later, bud.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.